Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of From Page to Stage. I'm your host, Wendy Corner, and I will be sharing with you some beautiful interviews with people who have done both the page and the stage, as well as authors who've done the page bit and not quite there with the stage as confidently as they would like to be yet. So this is the premise of this podcast. And today I'm bringing you a beautiful lady, Angel Tuccy, who has done page, stage, and so much more. I'm going to let her introduce herself a bit herself. So, Angel, what's brought you to this position in your life right now?
Oh, what a fabulous question. Well, first of all, I do want to say thank you, Wendy, for having me and loving the premise of this whole page to stage. Because honestly, the very first time I ever published a book, people told me if you publish it, you will be invited to speak, you will be invited for interviews. And I thought, how odd, because writing and speaking are two very different skill sets. I was a complete introvert, stage fright, fear of public speaking, the whole bit. So writing was super comfortable for me. When I published my first book, bam, the interview opportunity showed up, like to go and speak to small groups, to go to speak to large groups, television interviews, radio interviews. And all of a sudden, I needed to become a public speaker. So from page to stage it is a real, true and living thing. But what brought me to where I am here today? So now, right, I published my very first book, 2008, when nobody I knew around me was a published author. So I ventured into this space just because I felt like I had it in me. I'd always wanted to be an author, like for such a long, long time. But of course, not knowing when, how, what, like all of the details. But I published my very first book in 2008, launched into a radio career shortly thereafter, a public speaking career with a fear of public speaking acts. And now today I have 15 published books. I've written a foreword in 8 others. I've done 7 anthologies. I have been the host of my own radio show, 2 radio shows, a television show, magazines. Like it just has just from page to stage and so much more.
Wow, phenomenal. So the writing for you came first.
It did.
Okay,
It
so
did.
what prompted you? I mean, that's your first published work in 2008, but have
Correct.
you been writing earlier than that?
Not like anything publishable, really. But um, you know, uh, all evidence to the contrary. I was going to say pretty good with words, and here I am. I can't think of a word right now. Right? So, right, pretty good with words. Loved writing, the privacy of it. Right, more like journaling, blogging. My own, just for my own personal use.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I loved doing book reports, right, writing book reports and things like that. But nothing really publishable until this bout in 2008. I actually met somebody, a friend of mine. He was a newscaster, had
Okay.
published a book, and he was like the first person I knew that had published a book, and he was doing a book signing at a local restaurant. And I thought, I'm going to go and I'm going to pick his brain and ask him everything he knows about publishing. And I just started yammering. Okay, how about this? How about that? What about this? Who do you know? What do you do? And he said, Angel, stop. He said, just write it. The rest will follow. And it was incredible wisdom. It was incredible advice that I still remember today. And I use it. Like, just write it. Writers write, speakers speak, right? Like, do the thing that you say you're going to do. And after that, I was on a camping trip with my family, had been trying to think about what would I write? What would the book be about? I have no idea. Coming home from a camping trip, got the idea for my very first book and ended up writing that book and publishing that book. That was in September, and I think we were published by the end of December. So 4 months later, published my
Whoa,
very first book.
that's
Yeah. Whoa.
phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So you had this burning urge to write. That's what prompted you to write the first book?
Yes. And And in between, right, between writing that first, starting the book and actually publishing it, I had been podcasting, and my show got discovered. And so in the middle of that, ended up launching my radio career and became a local broadcaster of a local radio station. And so my thought was, I better start, if I'm going to do anything, I better get these things published before, you know, before I hit the big time, before I become a celebrity. So that was kind of the urgency of why to get it done so quickly, was because in November, I started hosting a local radio show. So I kind of wanted them to coincide. I didn't think I'd ever be able to have time to really write and publish again, because I thought I was going to be discovered. I was going to make it.
Yes.
So I better publish it now, right? Dream big, they say. And I was definitely a big dreamer.
Cool. So your speaking and your writing came pretty much hand in hand, didn't they?
They did. They very much did. So, yes. So, but as soon as I published that book, Wendy, people invited me to speak to their groups, right? I got invited to speak at this huge like network marketing convention. I got invited to speak at the convention center. I mean, I was being invited to speak for some pretty big events, big audiences. And I don't know if you know this, but even being a radio host, not really needing the public speaking skill to be a radio talk show host, because it's just you in a cubicle with a microphone with your producer. Like, it's still pretty like an introverted activity to me. And so even though I was published, even though I had a radio show, going out and speaking and being in front of audiences was very scary for me. But it was like, try it by fire. Like, you are in, you've been invited, and off you go. And it was pretty exciting to see it happen. But I was a nervous wreck, Wendy, every time.
But because this is the thing, our perception of public speaking is very different for everyone, and a lot of people, they think, oh, I can't do public speaking, no, and because their perception is there's a raised area, there's people in front of me, I've got a microphone in hand, and I'm spouting forth. But even the radio show, that's public speaking.
I know. I don't know why.
I know I'm not criticizing it. I'm just pointing out the fact that our definition of being an author, our definition of being a speaker, and those identities can be fairly hard and fast. And one of the points of this podcast is to challenge those assumptions and broaden the definitions, so that, yeah, you might be, as you considered yourself to be shy, introverted, and don't want to speak in front of a group, but anyway, here's the microphone, I'll do it. And you cut your teeth on a radio show. So you got used to speaking, even although it appeared to be just to a microphone and your producer.
I always just pictured I was talking to my mom. I mean, so whenever I would be on the air, right, you have to picture you're talking to somebody. And so I just imagined I was talking to my mom. But being like, seeing their faces was very challenging for me. I would get very nervous. But somebody told me, like, nervous and excited are the exact same emotion. It's just your perception of it or your reaction to it. And so I really would approach it as if I was very excited. And although I still knew I was nervous, but I would convince myself and tell myself, no, this is excited. And I loved it. I loved it, Wendy. I loved being able to tell my story and share it, and people coming, to the back of the room to buy my book and to autograph them and to take pictures with the book. Like, I loved it so much. It was just, when they said, if you publish, you will also be invited to speak, I didn't believe it, and it didn't make sense to me of why. But I'm a living testimony to that is exactly what happens when people discover you're an author. Like, love to interview you. Can we have you on our show? Can you speak to our group? If it makes sense and it's a good fit, being that author elevates you in that status and that credibility and you've got something obviously notable and worthwhile to share, and it's remarkable, and people want to meet authors. They want to bring them in. And so I got invited in.
Very good. Part of it is also putting yourself out there, telling people that you've published a book, that you are an author, because there's a number of people that I've worked with over the years who've said, I'm an author, my work speaks for itself. Yes, and how's the book sales going? Well, it was great at the launch, but we've kind of hit the crickets since. And I go, how much talking are you doing about it? I'm not a speaker.
And probably none.
I'm not a speaker.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of authors feel like if I publish it, like that is the end of it. Like people will discover it. It'll go gangbusters at the bookstore, right? And the people will be flooding in to buy the book. But you are right. As an author, I mean, even I don't know if you ever are familiar with the story of Jack Canfield when he did Chicken Soup for the Soul. He went out every day. He did a radio interview. He spoke somewhere 7 days a week to get that book to the bestseller list. And this was pre-internet, right? So he didn't have the access that we now have. I mean, there's really, as an author, no excuse of why we're not selling books and talking about our books every single day. He had to go out and physically be invited onto these radio shows 7 days a week. When it hit bestseller, he dialed it back to 6 days a week. And most authors, they're like, I might have talked about it 6 times last year, right? And that was only because somebody else brought it up, right? But he was actively out promoting, talking about selling his book every single day. It really does surprise me to find authors who don't talk about their book, who don't actively promote it. I mean, you put all the work in, the hard work is over. Now it's the fun of talking about it and sharing it and people buying it and you actually making money on it. But they they were like, I did it at the launch. I'm like, there is no reason to stop. You don't have to stop. I mean, Think and Grow Rich, right? 1920s, that book is 100 years old. Like, they still talk about it. There's nothing that says after the launch you have to stop. Like every week, which is one of the things what we teach in, I started a Facebook group with, now we help authors get booked on podcasts. We teach them twice a week. Go and be interviewed on a podcast. Talk about your book. It's the easiest thing to sell. Like if you sell a high ticket, this is the great low ticket entry. If you don't sell anything else, you can at least make money selling your book. Think about this, 7 books a day. If you were to just text people, hey, you want to buy my book? You want to buy my book? 7 books a day is 200 book sales a month. That's more than the average author, like hands down. There's money in book sales. The problem is authors aren't selling their books.
Yes.
Sorry.
And
I didn't mean to get off on a soapbox.
Thank you, because this is where I was going anyway, because that's the point. Well, when we have this fixed set of mind that goes, I'm an author, I'm not a speaker. I endured it for the launch. But no. As Angel's just said, we've got to get out there and talk about the books every flipping day. And podcast for those of us who are feeling shy, introverted, as Angel said, you're talking to your mother or whoever would be that one person that you would like to speak to. When you get on a podcast, it's a one-on-one conversation with the host.
Right?
And
it's a conversation. Dialogue. You don't have to stand up with a scripted presentation, a PowerPoint. Like it's a conversation, it's a dialogue. Yeah. The host is probably super friendly and easy to talk to in most cases.
Yeah. And I mean, there are a couple of different styles of podcasts. Some will be interview based, give me the questions you want me to ask, and then have the answers prepared. And then there's the organic conversation, which is kind of all, and sometimes it's a bit in between, which is the premise for this one, is that I give the guests 4 main questions I'm going to ask, and we will easy go through it anyway. And that conversation, if you're feeling nervous, you're feeling unsure about yourself, this is the best way to start off. Cut your teeth, get used to that feeling of familiarity, not necessarily comfort, but familiarity that you can do this. Picking up on your point, Angel, about the excited and the nervous, you're absolutely right. The same neurotransmitters are involved. Again, it's back to your perception. So for the people I work with who can't get from nervous to excited in one go, I have a halfway house called Excitmous.
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 Oh my gosh. Tell me about Excitmous. Is that the
Yes, it's
bridge?
I'm not quite, I'm moving away from the nervous. I'm not quite at excited yet. I can be in the middle. I'm Excitmous.
I love it. I love it. That is where I live.
Yeah, it is me. I mean, when I did the post the night before we did our launch, Excitmous Central, people are beginning to understand when I get, most people do consider me a little batty. Well, that's fair enough. Eccentric, British, you know, it goes with the territory. But the point is that if that is too much of a stretch for you to be excited, come halfway. Leave the nerves behind. Well, acknowledge they're there, but get the excitement as well. The Excitmous. Beautiful, beautiful. And by the way, even seasoned speakers like Brené Brown, she chucks up before she goes on stage, even now.
Does she? Oh, I love hearing that. Like, I think that I keep thinking it's going to go away, right? I've spoken now over the last, I've been on probably 200 podcasts. I've spoken on over 100 stages. I keep thinking that it's going to go away. Like, I'll just become this very comfortable, seasoned speaker who's not nervous. But I ended up, Wendy, I don't travel very much and speak very much on public stages. I do a lot of podcasts. But a couple weeks ago, I traveled and I was speaking on a stage, and I got up to tell my story, and my voice was shaking. My husband said in the back, he's like, your voice was shaking so much. I'm like, it took me a minute, right, to get my sea legs, so to speak. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if you're nervous. It doesn't matter if you up chucking beforehand. Like, you still go on. Nothing bad happens. You don't die. The audience is more grateful that you're on the stage instead of them. They're usually incredibly gracious. If you have a moment, you need to take a break, you need to take a breath. Like, they are incredibly gracious. I have just found that to be. And then almost, it's like riding a bicycle. Like, once I get into it, the first few minutes, and then I can kind of get my composure, and I can pull it together.
Yeah.
And so long as the feature is more than 5 minutes, we're good.
Well, the thing is that it's also flipping it around, going, well, why am I nervous? I'm nervous because of me. Who am I here to speak to? Am I speaking to me, or am I speaking to the audience? Click. I'm here to serve them. And as you say, they're actually grateful that it's me up here and not them.
They are. Yes.
So let's crack on. Yeah. I do, when I'm working with speakers who are actually on stage, when I do the TEDx work that I do, I keep reminding the ladies of wardrobe issues. Because if you're on a physical stage, you're likely to have a mic pack to put somewhere.
Yes.
Can I share with you a little faux pas? I turned up to one time without thinking, and I was wearing this beautiful floaty dress. And the AV guy said to me, where am I going to put this? I said, well, you're not going to put it anywhere. And I took it off him and went to the ladies. Mercifully was wearing some very strong elastic in my knickers that day. Attached it in, but what I hadn't realized was the mic pack was still on.
Oh, you were in the ladies' room.
And I was in the ladies.
What does your body naturally need to do when you end up in a ladies' room?
Yes, we had the tinkle, 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 and the flush, and the hand wash, and my vocal warm-ups, sirens and all the rest of it. And so when I came back into the room, I was greeted with thunderous applause and big grins. And I go, okay, not quite sure why, but I'll take that. Got up, did my talk. And then afterwards, somebody came up and went, we heard your warm-ups and your pee, don't you? No. So I'm glad I didn't know that before I started speaking.
Of course, yes.
So the wardrobe awareness is always something I speak to stage speakers
Yes,
about, you ladies.
for sure. And gentlemen usually have a suit coat, they've got
Yeah.
pockets, their
Yes.
pants have pockets, they have a belt, they have
Yes.
all sorts of places for that mic pack. Yeah, I've had many of them attached to the back of my bra strap. If I show up in a dress that doesn't have any of those means. And you just lose your pride, I think. AV people have had to put microphone packs on lots of different places. They're usually very professional about it. And in many, and if not, you can pull a lady from the group to help you with that. But the challenge, if you do have it tucked, you have to have it on because there's no way to get to it to turn it on and off. So yes. Oh, Wendy. Well, I've avoided that one, knock on wood, so far in my
I haven't done
travels.
it again. I can tell you, once done, you tend to remember. Yes, what am I wearing today? But that, audience, is for when you get to a physical stage. Our premise, our focus here is right here, right now, on a microphone, in front of a camera, talking to a gorgeous podcast host. So that's down the track. As I said, for me, there are three different stages. You've got the podcast, you've got the virtual stage, as in some virtual summits, that sort of thing. And then you've got the physical in-person stage. So those are three complementary and yet different skill sets required.
They are, but I will tell you, like the podcast stage, it's my favorite. It's like, and it's also the easiest one to get booked on,
Yes.
the easiest one to do, the most accessible, and the longevity of it, because if you're on live on a stage, the audience gets to experience it. With a podcast, it is now like it's available for you to find. Somebody can listen to it next week, next month, next year. So it sticks around and it has that compound effect for your brand and your story. So yeah, dialogue, conversation, do it from wherever. And you can easily get booked on them and find so many of them. They're far more accessible than actually having to go somewhere and actually get booked to speak on a stage.
Well, I mean, here you're in Florida, I'm in Malaysia.
This would not normally be that simple, right? For me, it's a Sunday afternoon. I was at the pool all day, hanging out. Like it's this beautiful afternoon. I came in, put some lashes, some lipstick on, brushed my hair, and I'm like, here I go.
Yeah.
As soon as we're done, I'll get to go have dinner with my husband. And yeah, so podcasting from page to podcast is brilliant.
Excellent, excellent. That's why I'm very keen that we get authors in who are a little bit reluctant at the moment and say, well, look, try this. Let's get you in a podcast. Now, if you want to do this one first, then it's really a good way to test the water, to try your luck, if you like. There's no luck in it. And we can show you how easy it is, how you can do this. And then where are you going from here? Well, Angel's got a fabulous Facebook group. Will you tell us a bit about that, please?
I would love to. I would love to. So my background in broadcasting, and when I left broadcasting, I traveled as a public speaker for a couple of years and teaching entrepreneurs, organizations, authors, speakers how to leverage the power of media exposure, borrowing other people's audiences. When we had the pandemic, I shifted obviously to everything online, not traveling. And I started a Facebook group, Wendy, because people were always coming to me saying, Angel, I need a guest, right? Everybody was doing virtual. They were doing podcasts. They were doing summits. Angel, I need a guest. So I started the Facebook group called Need a Guest. And it was really to bring hosts and speakers and authors together to find guests and get booked. That group has grown in the 5 years, actually, sorry, it's only been 3 years, to 32,000 people in that Facebook group, Wendy. And it is a free place to network with podcast hosts, stage planners, people who are looking for live speakers, but a lot of podcasts. And so if you want to get booked on 2 podcasts every week, which is what we really want to encourage you to do. Go and speak about your stuff 2 times a week. That's 50 stages over the course of 6 months. And it's free. It's free access to get in there, to network, to find guests, and get booked. And it's called Need a Guest if you're on Facebook.
There you go. We will make sure that that information is in the show notes. Fabulous. Thank you. Just pulling back onto the podcast thing for a minute, with a lot of podcasts these days are recorded video. Some are put up video, some are put up audio, some are put up on both platforms. With From Page to Stage, just to give you the heads up, audience, you're watching this on YouTube, I'm suspecting, because at the moment I'm focusing on the YouTube bit. I'm very keen that I will always have video first. Down the track, we'll put the audio up as well. But for me, the importance of the non-verbals, with my background in speech pathology, I know the importance of the visual cues. And we had one guy a couple of seasons ago with the TEDx team that I work with who had a cochlear implant. And he was saying, please don't cover your face at all, because whilst I can hear the vibration, I'm still lip reading.
Yeah.
So we have that opportunity for people who maybe need a little bit of extra support with understanding on the video show. So guys, if you are on a podcast, remember you're likely to be videoed. So I would recommend that you look presentable. Doesn't have to be dolled up to the nines, but don't work unless it's appropriate. Turn up in your jammies.
I was going to say, go with your brand, right?
Yes.
You know, if you've got the brand that says you live this digital nomad lifestyle, right? You know, to be a little bit more comfortable is probably more appropriate than, you know, the full glam. Although I know a gentleman, his is all about the customer experience, and he teaches this brand excellence. It always shows up, suit, vest, tie, like the whole 9 yards. I will tell you, when I do show up in a live event, I tend to put on, you know, the fancy. But at home, I just can't pull it together. Like, I have to be comfortable. Like, you guys know I'm at home.
Yeah.
You guys know that, right? That I'm relaxed and at home, and this is my lifestyle. So, you know, but good lighting is always really important. A clean, decluttered background. If you're not going to go with a virtual background, you make sure your actual background is clean and decluttered and not distracting. For ladies, we talked this beforehand, is a little splash of color on your lips, and for gentlemen too, like drink some water beforehand.
Yes.
So because your lips, you want them to be hydrated. So drinking some water, putting in little, you know, water is good for gentlemen, color for the ladies. But yes, the visual is so important. And I'm actually kind of not following my camera rule today, but I usually say, you know, solid color, jewel tones, long sleeves is like, if people always say, what should I wear? The number one best thing on camera is solid jewel tones, long sleeves. Now, does it have to be solid? No, it can be print, but that's the best. Does it have to be long sleeves? No, you can do it anything, but that's the best. Does it have to be jewel tones? No, but right, they just show up best on camera. And you can have any variation of that, you know, that you want, but those are, yeah, those are absolutely critical. And you know, and even now, because people are watching, who knows, right? HD cameras, and you know, I like the filter. I will tell you, Zoom is my favorite because it allows you to have this nice little soft filter, ladies. That is, you know, there's a lot of different video streaming platforms, but Zoom has a nice built-in filter, and the older we get, right, it just erases some of the
Maybe I need to investigate the filters. I'm in a situation where I'm living with my 20 kilos, so I'm very confined with what I have available. And back in Perth, I had a full green screen. Here I don't. So this is why the virtual background and the ghosting. And then I've got to be careful of the background lighting. I've got a ring light in front, which if I look like that, you can see the reflecting in the glasses.
Yes.
So it's looking at what lighting do I have around me that's going, and if I go too close, then ghosts So if I sit back, there are all sorts of parameters that you can play with.
Well, and where your camera is too.
Yes.
I have been in many hotel rooms where I've got the ironing board propped up with a book, right? So I can get my camera up here so it's not looking up my nose,
Yes.
right? Or looking down,
Yeah.
right? Camera placement, there's a lot of nuances to being
Yes.
on camera, and it's worthwhile to take advice from somebody who is professional and who's done this a lot. It does matter, and it does have an impact.
It does. It does. The first thing I did when I arrived here was go down to the local tech mall and get a stand for the laptop.
Yes,
So this is
yes.
where I know that I'm already over my 20 kilos.
Uh-oh. It might be something you donate behind, right?
Well, as I'm going to be out every 3 months, I kind of want to have it with me.
Oh,
So something else will go. Yes, that's the fun joy of it, guys. So Angel's given us some wonderful pointers on presentation. Go, you weren't expecting that, were you? So some extra things. Need a guest? Go look her up. Go look her up. As we're winding up, you told us about, you actually told us what your books are around. So please share what your books are about, because you've written 15.
I've written 15. So when I very first started, very first book was called Lists That Saved My Life. And it was really about how I balanced being a career, professional and a mom. Just how I brought all of that together. But I quickly realized, because I was speaking all the time, that being invited to speak and being invited to share, that it had nothing to do with my business. And so from there forward, Wendy, most of my books focus around marketing, media exposure. My most popular is called Get Discovered: How to Use Media Interviews to Grow Your Business, Your Book, and Your Brand. So most of them are all around media, marketing, visibility. Yeah, I've got ABCs of media exposure, Get Discovered, right? So those are my two most recent, and that's my wheelhouse, really, is helping people to leverage, to tell their story on, in front of audiences. And whether that's in a Facebook group, a podcast, on a stage, through publishing, through PR, all of that. And so you can find me on, if you look at my name, Angel Tuccy, Tuccy. I've got a nice little library over online on Amazon, but truly the best place to connect with me would be that Need a Guest Facebook group. And you can pop in. We've got some free resources there for getting booked every week, how we leverage podcast interviews to grow our business. I mean, this is truly now my business model. We do 2 interviews a week, and we send 1 email out every day, right? That's our marketing. That's our exposure. So making offers, selling our stuff through our email list, but really just connecting and sharing our story every week on somebody else's podcast.
Yeah. I thoroughly recommend you check this Facebook group out, because there is so much there. There really is. So thank you, Angel. Can you share with us now, what do you do? Is there something specific, some little nugget of wisdom you can share with us as to how you personally embody your words? You bring your words from page to stage.
Well, other than physically, right? Every week I schedule at least 2 interviews, at least 2. On average, right? There might be a week where I do 3, maybe 4, and then a week I do only 1, but that's the cadence, is going out. And what that does for me, Wendy, it keeps me focused on growing my business, keeps me excited, right? I mean, if you're going to talk, make sure it's something you're passionate about, which is where media is. That's my jam. I can speak about it every day, somebody new. I get super excited. And I once heard, if things aren't going good, do good. I think a lot of time as business owners, we can start to get in our heads, get in our own way, kind of feel like, down in the dumps about things. But I promise you, if you've got to show up for somebody else's audience, you've got to show up. It's going to get you excited. It's going to remind you why you're doing what you do. It's going to reignite that passion that's already there inside of you. and you'll get out of your own way for sure. So not only does it help you to grow your business, help you sell books, but it's really good for your mental health.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Angel. Is there anything we've missed off before we close up?
We've covered a lot.
We have, haven't we?
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope this was helpful. I know we went down a lot of little bunny trails today, but it all ties into from page to stage, right? Publish your book, tell your story.
Yes.
And just go out and make sure that people know you have a book. Keep it with you. Carry your book with you when
Yes.
you're out in public. Always take a copy to give away as a door prize to any business event you go. Like, be generous with getting, putting your book out into the marketplace. Leave copies behind in the airplane back of the airplane seat. Like, just be really generous with getting your book out into the world.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Angel. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I knew it was going to be a great one. So, Angel, thank you so much for letting us share your page to stage. For now,
Thank
everyone,
you.
bye from us.